Hey guys, it's your boy M.K.S. finally back at you with part 2 of my ideas for empowering Indigenous Australasians. As I mentioned in part 1, this and also April and May, I wanted to focus mostly on Asia, but because I think this is quite a pressing issue about for Indigenous Australasians who are suffering in like the criminal justice system and stuff like that, I thought it'd be good to get this video done a bit sooner. So that's why I'm focusing on this video tonight. I'm actually in my room for once, but it's a lot less messy than it was, but because my mum chucked away a lot of my hoarding stuff, which I kept because I've got a really bad hoarding problem. But anyway, enough of my issues. I want to talk about my ideas for Indigenous Australasians. So I hope you enjoy this. And as I said in part 1, and as I often say, or normally say when I remember, please let me know any of your own ideas or thoughts, plans, or anything like that or what you think, any suggestions basically of what you think could happen to benefit Indigenous Australasians. I think it'd be great if they unite together, network together, and as I said in part 1, if human rights groups, NGOs, even politicians, political groups, and that sort of thing, support them as much as possible, like with political and legal representation and things like that, which I hope will help them with these issues, and also like more representation in the police, as I mentioned again in part 1. So if you haven't checked part 1 out, please check it out, and I hope you enjoy this video. And here goes. So as I say, this is continuing on from part 1. So as I often do with these lists, I'm going to continue on the list of my ideas. So I got to part 10, obviously, from 1 to 10 in part 1. So I'm going to cover from 11 to 20. So with that being said, number 11, I would love to see more Indigenous Australasian inventors and more Indigenous Australasians being supported to become inventors and being empowered in that sort of area. So obviously creating things and inventing things and being encouraged, inspired and motivated, and hopefully in the future they'll have more role models that they can look up to. I know they probably already have some now, but it'd be great if they had more in the future. Number 12, I think it'd be great if there was mentorship for Indigenous Australasians from around the world who might be able to mentor them online, or even maybe even go to Australia, or even people from Australia or Australasia itself, like people from the Asian communities or European descent, or any other background who want to support and empower Indigenous Australasians. Maybe they could be even like friends of Indigenous Australasians or allies of Indigenous Australasians network, excuse me, which could network with Indigenous Australasians to help them to be supported and support each other, and again be empowered in different areas like inventing things, be empowered in STEM, networking with people from other countries or continents like across Africa in STEM and things like that, and people from Asia and around the world supporting Indigenous Australasians with like funding and legal support and things like that. So hopefully having as much representation as possible, and hopefully again in the future they would have more role models, so they can look up to. And also I think it'd be great if they had their own representation in the media, positive representation, and more Indigenous Australasians in TV shows, maybe even having their own TV shows, or being more involved in things like Neighbours or Home and Away, where they are not just token people, not just token black people or whatever, or token minorities, but also have their own say on their culture, so they can educate people about their way of life or their culture and history to a more wider audience and things like that. Number 13, I think it'd be interesting to hear from Indigenous Australasians about their problems and challenges, what challenges they go through. I just want to make it clear that these videos I'm talking about now are not about saying that Indigenous Australasians should be given rights to like break the law or anything. Obviously, I think they should obey the law and be supported in doing so and encouraged to do so. I think that's one way, without wanting to be too controversial, which would help them. But I do think obviously they should be given the same rights as everyone else, and I think that's really important. And the fact that their land was stolen from them, or looted from them, whatever term you want to use, I think that is a reason to support them as much as possible. Number 14, I would love to bring a group together, say, to look at how to solve problems which Indigenous Australasians face, whether that's like poverty or lack of opportunities or lack of self-esteem or problems with smoking or drinking or drugs or any other such issues or problems they face, like trying to help them to solve those problems as much as possible. Number 15, as I said in part 1, I think it'd be great to hear what aspirations Indigenous Australasians have, and how to help them and encourage them to have higher aspirations and goals, again, like mentors, teachers, trainers, and people like that, to help them as much as possible. Number 16, I'd love to hear other people's suggestions, as I said before, and also, like, I think it'd be great if Indigenous Australasians, for instance, were exempt from taxes. I'm not sure what the rules are now, but I think it'd be great if they're exempt from taxes and they could be supported like Native Americans with, like, or Indigenous people from different parts of the Americas. Maybe they could have the same sort of rights as those and vice versa, so they can network together to make sure they have the same rights. And because they were colonized, I think it'd be good for them to have certain privileges, like tax exemptions and like their own reservations where they can do business and be tax exempt as much as possible. And even that could encourage encourage more customers to go to those reservations and to give them custom, and also like people who support them could be given tax exemptions. And I'd love to hear what you think about what legal rights and protections Indigenous Australians should have, or what reparations they should have generally for being colonised. Number 17, again, I would love to see Indigenous Australasians share their dreams and goals, and be encouraged in art and expressing themselves through writing their own biographies, or generally being encouraged to write stories and be supported in making their own movies and their own YouTube channels and things like that. And again, I'd love to hear from Indigenous Australasians on my Facebook or on this channel, or both. And I'd love to hear from them in the comments and things like that, so to see what ideas they think would make their life better for themselves and their communities as individuals and as communities as well. But yeah, I'd love to hear about Indigenous Australasian stories, art, and things like that, which hopefully will empower them in the future. Number 18, again, maybe they can have their own reservations where people go and find out about their culture and some positive things that we can learn from, or people can learn from their communities and their cultures. I know those sort of things kind of exist with tourism centres, but I think more people could be encouraged to visit them and support them as much as possible. Number 19, again, I'd love to support as many Indigenous Australasians as possible in STEM, which again stands for science, tech, engineering and maths, which are key areas for the future for their careers, whether that be in business or other areas. Again, Indigenous Australasians of all ages and backgrounds being supported in those areas. And number 20, again, like maybe the youth could teach younger people, passing on their skills and knowledge in areas like farming or different areas, and passing on their expertise and experience, and their general experiences and things like that. So, as ever, I'd love to hear what you think about these ideas. I know they might be a bit naive or maybe idealistic of me, and they might take longer than I would plan to take, like I want them done yesterday, so to speak, but it might take a while. But again, I'd love to hear what you think, and maybe if enough people support these ideas, they can work quite quickly, hopefully. Anyway, I'm out. Peace and up.